What's up, guys? It's Collin from Built2Wander. I'm out here at Phil Long Ford in Denver, Colorado with our 3rd Gen Raptor build that we did for SEMA. We just got it back from Evil Manufacturing. They went through, fine-tuned the entire build, got it ready for us to hit the road and off-road with it. We're gonna compare it to the stock 3rd Gen Raptor that's sitting next to it today, talk about some of the differences between stance, tires, suspension design, off-road accessories, and even talk about our on-road impressions and just how well it drives on-road. Before we do that, like this video, subscribe to the Driving Line channel, and let's get after it. So we're out here at Phil Long Ford where our 3rd Gen Raptor originally came from. Derrik bought it brand new from them this fall right before SEMA. They were kind enough to hook us up with a factory 3rd Gen Raptor today so that we could compare the two against each other. So when we start our comparison, we're gonna start by talking about stance, because visually, when you look at that 3rd Gen Raptor that we built, you can tell that it's quite a bit more aggressive. And so when we talk about stance, we're really talking about track width and the height of the vehicle. So when we measured track width, we went from outside of tire to outside of tire. And on the Built2Wander 3rd Gen Raptor build, we're at about 97 inches wide. On the stock 3rd Gen Raptor, we're at 87 inches wide. So a 10-inch difference is quite a bit. And a lot of that comes from that wide, long travel suspension system. When we refer to height, we really wanted to know, does this vehicle sit that much taller than the factory because of all the changes we made in suspension? And what we did was we measured from the ground to the bottom of the mirror. That was just a consistent measurement we could take on each vehicle. And our 3rd Gen Raptor build is only an inch taller than the factory, which is pretty impressive given all the extra travel we gained when we swapped out the suspension. Some of that height difference actually comes from suspension, some of it comes from tires. We're gonna talk about tires next. When we went to the drawing board to start planning out this build, we selected the 37-inch Nitto Trail Grappler to build this thing around. Now, if you guys have been following along, you know we love the Trail Grappler. You've seen it on most of our builds, and for good reason. This thing drives down the road, it's smooth, it's comfortable. It's perfect for a truck like this that doubles as a daily driver. But when you get it off-road, it hooks up well on the rocks, it eats the desert alive. We've had 0 failures on the Trail Grappler and have all the faith in the world with this tire, and so that's why it made a lot of sense to put that tire under this truck. Now, when we were comparing our 3rd Gen Raptor build to the factory 3rd Gen Raptor we have out here today, we made sure to select a 37-inch Edition Raptor because it comes with a 37-inch tire. And so we took some measurements just to compare the two. And just to note, you know, both tires were set at about similar PSI, so they're up at the same air pressure. And the factory 37 Edition Raptor tire actually only measures about 35 inches tall. The Nitto Trail Grappler here, 37-inch version, measured about 36 inches tall under load, like I said. And that's gonna account for some of that additional height that we have on our build versus the factory. Like I said, this one sits about an inch taller, and so half of that, a ½ inch, is coming from the tires itself. All right, so the next thing that really makes our 3rd Gen Raptor pretty unique is the suspension. So we wanted to talk about the differences between our build and the stock 3rd Gen Raptor. So starting with the stock 3rd Gen Raptor, in the rear, it's a traditional 4-link suspension design, coil spring, a Fox live valve shock, and you're getting about 14 inches of wheel travel. In the front, you've got a independent front suspension, again, that Fox live valve shock, and 13 inches of suspension travel. The nice thing about that setup is you can electronically control the valving, so you can change your suspension dampening based on whether you're on the street or out off-road, and it's really convenient to do that. Now, moving over to our 3rd Gen build, we'll start with the front. So Evil Manufacturing designed the suspension on all 4 corners. In the front, it's still that independent front suspension, but what we did was we added a coilover and a triple bypass shock from Bilstein. The bypasses allow us to still adjust the suspension. We can independently adjust each of those bypass tubes and really dial in compression and rebound. And we were able to do that, get this thing really dialed well for both street and off-road out there in the desert. In the front, we're getting actually 19 inches of wheel travel, which is 6 more inches than the factory. In the rear, again, Evil Manufacturing put together a cantilever rear suspension design, which is really cool because we don't have to send the shocks through the bed, taking up the space that Derrik would like to have for things like the spare tire, a jerry can, or his dirt bike at times. So with that cantilever setup, we're still running a coilover and a Bilstein 9200 series bypass. So we've got all the adjustability we want with the suspension, and we're getting 22 inches of rear wheel travel versus 14 in stock. So 8 more inches of travel in the rear, 6 more inches of travel in the front, all while sitting only a ½ inch taller from the suspension is, in my mind, pretty impressive and what makes this Raptor such a beast. So moving on from suspension, we wanted to talk about accessories. So starting with the factory 3rd Gen Raptor, there's really not a ton of accessories that come with this vehicle. The only thing we've noticed is some rigid fog lights in the front corners, which are definitely nice to have. When we started building our 3rd Gen Raptor, we wanted to make sure that we had a lot of functional accessories that would help us out on our adventures. And so we addressed lighting, spare tire, extra gas, all things you need out in the desert. So starting up front, on the Evil Manufacturing pre-runner front bumper, we've got some LP6 Pros from Baja Designs. We did both amber and white light. Amber's great in snowy conditions or out in the desert where there's a lot of dust. It really helps to improve that line of sight. And then white is good for those clear conditions. And so it's helpful to have a mix. We've also got some LP4s up on the A-pillars, just additional amber light. I'd say this is probably more than enough, but I'd rather have more than we need than less. So moving on from the front, we've got Baja Designs rock lights under each fender, which helps illuminate that wheel well, allow us to see better when we're wheeling at night. And then when we go out to the truck bed, Evil Manufacturing built a really nice bed rack that actually allows us to add a full-size 37-inch spare trail grappler, big can of gas for those long adventures out in the desert. And then we also have a spot for Derrik to mount his dirt bike, which he often takes with him when he goes out into the desert, likes to play around with both his dirt bike and his truck. The other thing you'll see up on top of the cab is the 3rd brake light from Evil Manufacturing. It keeps that bed camera that comes factory, but adds 2 Baja Designs S2s. And those are, again, in amber, which just helps add additional light. So when you're out, you're camping somewhere, you're on an adventure, you can see in your truck bed really well. And so that just adds more functionality. And so we really didn't try to add too much to this, but really stoked with how those accessories we just highlighted will add to the functionality of this truck for all of our adventures going forward. All right, so I'm in the Raptor with Derrik. We're driving down the road. I wanted to have him share his thoughts on just how well this thing performs on road. So Derrik, you picked this thing up from California, drove it all the way to Colorado. What are your thoughts so far?
I'm really impressed with how Evil Manufacturing designed this whole truck. I mean, driving from this when this was a stock Raptor to it now, I mean, it drives a lot of the same ways. It doesn't have a lot of body roll like I was expecting. Most long travel trucks will kind of roll as you go around a corner, but this one doesn't, and I think it's because of the cantilever suspension. I think it's like kind of having a big sway bar in the rear. You definitely get a little float in the front, but I mean that's typical on a trophy, or not a trophy truck, but on a pre-runner or just a vehicle with long travel. But for the most part, man, this thing drives incredible.
So what do you think of like suspension wise? Because you know, you've got the Bilsteins, we haven't really tuned them too much, but just curious kind of your initial impressions, just how comfortable is it?
I mean, it's smooth. I mean, I have no complaints at all about the way this thing drives on the road. I definitely can't wait to take it off-road and see what these shocks can actually do and how they perform.
Yeah, so we definitely will have a future video for you guys where we really show this thing out in its element in the desert, ripping up the dunes, which is what it was designed and built to do. We haven't had that opportunity yet, given that we just got it back from the shop and it's winter here in Colorado. But yeah, super stoked that you're enjoying it, and can't wait to show you guys more. Any last thoughts?
Just want to say thank you, Collin with Built2Wander. Thank you, Evil Manufacturing, and everyone else, all the partners that came through and really built my dream truck. And I'm so happy with this thing, and I'm excited for the future.
Oh yeah, more adventures to come. Guys, thanks for following along and joining us at Phil Along 4 today while we compared our 3rd Gen Raptor build with long travel suspension and 37-inch Nitto Trail Grapplers to the stock 37-inch Edition 3rd Gen Raptor. Really appreciate Phil Along 4 for having us out today. and had a blast showing you guys some of the key differences between those two trucks. Drop us a comment below. Let us know what your favorite part of our build is, and if you have any questions about some of the different things that we did. And as always, hit the like button if you did, and subscribe if you haven't. Till next time, wander on.
Thanks for watching Driving Line. If you guys like this video, consider subscribing to our channel so you'll never miss any of the content we create here. Whether you're into trucks, Jeeps, imports, domestic vehicles, or anything in between, we are here to fuel your passion. So hit that subscribe button and we'll see you guys next time.